Chapter 12. Tom was still looking at her in wonder when they stepped outside. The sea breeze stirred the hairs as Fleur pointed. "Let's walk the esplanade." "You knew?" he said, framing a question while feeling awestruck. She chuckled. "Not until you mentioned the circumstances, but I remember that brief time we spent together as vividly as you do." "I can't believe it's you." "It is the girl of your dreams," suggested, not realizing how her joke hit its mark. He couldn't talk about his feelings yet, so he steered the conversation to Miss Jackson. "That awful housekeeper," he said. "She terrified me, but not you. I hate injustice at any time. She was being deliberately cruel to you when you deserved a big heart and lots of empathy. I worried about you after we left with your mother. Thank you for whatever you did. As young as I was, I felt as though you and your father would take care of her and my sister." "We did, I promise you that. Have you visited the grave yet?" "No, planning to next week. I arrived a few nights ago and have been finding lodgings and some work, getting myself acquainted with the neighbourhood." "Attending dances," she said, matching his slightly weary tone. He grinned. "That was a mate's idea, but I don't regret it," he said, casting her a shy glance. They passed the rotunda. Lights were strung between lampposts, achieving a sparkly pathway along the shore. "The bands will be playing most weekends come summer," she remarked. "It's lovely down here, and everyone is usually in such happy spirits. Shall we walk the jetty?" "I like that," he said, wanting to pinch himself that this was the same Fleur Appleby he had carried a torch for most of his days. How strange and wonderful life could be. "Are you always this economical with your words, Tom?" He smiled at her, teasing. "Probably. Never turned into a chatterbox then." He shook his head. "I remember liking that about you all those years ago," she said, smiling back. The breeze stiffened slightly, but it was pleasantly mild, and he loved the way it teased a few strands of her hair free from their neat styling. She didn't disappoint. From his vision of how she might have turned out, her hair was slightly darker than it had been as a child, but remained a mystery colour between blonde and brown. There had been moments early in the evening when it glowed like a summer sunset, though right now, beneath the moonlight, it appeared fair. He glanced back at the palais, and she followed his line of sight. "This is a bathing pavilion, which apparently can cater to 500 bathers," she explained. "Why the tower?" "Oh, just an attractive addition, I think. It serves as an observation tower. People sneak up there." She pointed. "I think I can see 2 pairs of lovers right now," she said, grinning, and then quickly moved on. "There's a rooftop garden as well. I think the lovers are staring at us, wishing they were out on the jetty instead." Fleur smiled at him. "So, are you visiting for long, or—" "I'm not sure. I'm working at the wool store." "All right. Did you become the brilliant wool classer you told me you wanted to be?" He laughed. "I became a wool classer, that's for sure. I'm still one." She frowned, just taking a pause. "Not quite." As they walked the length of the jetty, he told her what had occurred. She sighed in sympathy. "That's a lot of pain." He noted. "How you felt just now in the ballroom is how I felt about my life. I needed to walk away from it." "So what's next for Tom Catchlove?" They reached the end of the jetty and stared out at the sea. "I don't know," he said, revealing his deepest anxiety. "I need to find something. As much as the work in the wool store is welcome, I've got to make some decisions. Do you want to keep wool classing?" "The only way to do that is to return to a shearing shed, and as cowardly as it sounds, I don't want to be in one again. I love the shed, but it holds bad memories for me now. My mother died during shearing time. My father did too, and then the business with Peter. I learned something about someone I loved during shearing time that she I loved during shearing time that has shocked me so deeply I can't think straight. So everything about the shearing shed feels bad to me at the moment. Even the smell of the wool bale in the store sends me right back there, so I think I need to find something new." "I don't think it's cowardly, Tom. I think it's more cowardly not to face one's demons. You couldn't be more honest than you're being with yourself right now. Most people would probably prefer to put their heads in the sand and ignore the inner voice, but yours has spoken and you're paying attention and allowing it now to guide you. I think that's brave." "You have." He gave her a nod. "You certainly know how to throw a good light on my situation. That's what you did the last time we met." They shared a sad chuckle. "You know, I think I saw you the other day," he said. "Really? When? Why didn't you say hello?" "You were standing in a doorway down from the road from the pub at Aberton, where I've got digs. You were with an older man." She frowned and she thought back. "Yes, that probably was me. I was with my father, trying to have a private conversation. The walls of ease in our house." She turned away and followed her path. Side by side, they strolled back down the jetty. "I've not seen the sea before, so thank you for—" "What?" She stopped walking, looking back at him with an expression of shock. Tom shrugged. I grew up a million miles away, Fleur. We didn't take holidays or go to the seaside like you lot. Shouldn't you be weeping with joy to gaze on it for the first time? I am in here, he said with a grin, touching his chest. Fleur shook her head. Oh, Tom, come on, you have to dip your toes in and have a yell or two. What now? Yes, now. Be cold, won't it? I've just finished telling you you're not a coward. You aren't scared of a bit of cold water, are you? Cold might be understating it. She tugged at his sleeves. I insist. I want to be at your side when you first feel the foam of the sea touch your toes. No further, I promise. Only if you will as well, he challenged her. Right, I will. She began to run, and he followed, breaking into a jog. Get your shoes and socks off and roll up your trousers, she urged. He laughed. Still bossy. People are going to stare. Doesn't matter. It's harmless. You've never seen the sea, Tom, she exclaimed again, as if still unable to believe it. Fleur pulled off her own shoes quicker than Tom and dropped them onto the beach. We'll leave them here, don't worry, no one will touch them. She offered a hand, and he took it, allowing her to lead him down across the sand. The reflected light from the palais and the jetty allowed them to see where they were walking. I love the sound of nature's power, Tom said, exhaling softly as they stopped just out of reach, of the water's edge. Even when she's gentle like now, you know she can take it up a few notches. It's very soothing tonight. It is seductive, Fleur agreed. Do you have anything similar in the landscape you grew up in? He nodded. The wind can toss your hair when it's hot and make you sigh with pleasure, but when it roars across the plain, the same winds in nature showing off her power, it can create a storm like you can't imagine. There's nothing to shield you from the sand it whips up, or the rain it drives, or the heat it carries, which can kill. He watched her shake her head gently in wonder. And on the day my mother and sister passed away, there was an earthquake in our region. I'll never forget it. There was nature at perhaps her most dramatic. It made me realize we're like grains of sand by comparison to her power. She shook me until my teeth rattled, like she was able to wake up some prehistoric beast deep in the earth and make it shift. Fleur smiled. I like that you make me see it and feel it with your description, Tom. So now step into the water and enjoy a whole new experience. Still holding hands, they stepped forward and allowed the sea's tumbling edge to race up and breathe them. The foam curled around their toes, and Tom chuckled. That's amazing. No longer a sea virgin. She laughed. I'm glad I was here for your first time, she said, smiling back at him. I find your joy irresistible. And as he turned towards her, it seemed she chose not to resist the impulse. As she reached up and kissed him, swiftly but gently. Are you going to wipe your mouth now with the back of your sleeve? She murmured. He blinked. I didn't, did I? You most certainly did. She laughed again at the memory. Not this time. He leaned in and kissed her again. Thank you. For what? She asked, looking puzzled. He looked around for this, for dancing with me, for remembering, for a kiss from the most beautiful woman at the dance. The sea surged again gently around their feet. Fleur tugged on his hand. Let's walk a little, not too far, because it's a bit dark. Fleur, when we spoke the other evening, I didn't know it was you, but you looked unhappy. I am. What's going on? Now it was Fleur's turn to spill the past, and Tom learned how her mother had died, how the arrival of Irma into her life had turned it upside down, about the changing of her father, and now the campaign to get her married to Coughlin, and out of the house, out of the way, out of the business, do you mean? Tom asked. Fleur nodded. Probably. I think she wants it for herself, although she covered all the possible angles. What do you mean? Will he be trying to marry me off to Jimmy? Why him specifically? Is he rich? She smirked. Now you've got her measure. But no, Jimmy is not rich. His father owns a coffee-making business, and both father and son wants to move into undertaking. Oh, I see. That's neat. It is certainly in Irma's conniving mind. Oh, my mother is likely turning in her grave. You said before you have two mothers. Three, in fact, but one doesn't count. She laughed without mirth before explaining about her adoption. May's death and Irma's insinuation into their lives. So yes, while I was a pitiful orphan, as Irma likes to remind me, May Appleby is the only mother I've loved. A woman, a stranger, gave birth to me, but it was May and Henry who became my parents. I freely admit that I resent Irma being in our lives, claiming to be a mother to me. But my negativity is not all about emotion. You see, Irma knows nothing about undertaking funerals and the work of mortuary, or all the companies that work for us, from coffins to calico makers. I think she's using me as her way of being able to continue the business should anything happen to my father. And is anything happening to him? Tom asked. Fleur nodded, and he saw how the directness of his question made her cheer up. Fleur, I'm sorry, Don't be. She chose that moment to bring their paddling to an end, moving out of the sea reach. He followed her up the sand as she continued. I must face it, my father is likely dying. I don't understand though. He was he was hale 3 months ago now. Suddenly he's ashen weak and even his personality shifting. Pain can do that. But he's not in pain, he assures me. He's getting older, a bit more fatigued, and that Irma's claim about the doctor only giving him weeks to live is a lie. Why would she say such a thing? Because she's cruel and wicked and scheming, pretending to know something I don't, simply to be beastly, and especially because she knows I'm trapped in a way that I can't respond. I don't want to hurt Dad any more than he already has been. Having two women at war in his household makes him feel wretched. Hearing the note of despair in her voice, Tom pointed to a nearby bench. They sat together to dry their toes, dust off the sand, and put on their shoes. She suddenly sounds like a pot stirrer. She's so much more devious than that. Irma makes trouble. She also makes me see red. Fleur admitted. Sorry, Tom, you don't need to hear all this. I want to. I want to know everything about you. She sighed. Our losing my mother was catastrophic for both of us. Few would understand that better than you, but Dad and I worked out a way to manage our lives. We're close and we're a good team in the business. We look after one another. Above all, we love each other. We made it work, and then Irma arrived and everything began to go wrong. How did they meet? Irma was brought in part-time to help run the house while Dad worked, but then she rather loftily took on the job of sorting out the mountain of paperwork after my mother passed away. Irma wasn't especially great at it, as I understand, but Dad had no time, and I was still at school. She began calling herself his secretary and attaching herself firmly to my father as his private assistant. Suddenly she was opening all the mail, handing all calls, organising the bookkeeping, making appointments. She began to embed herself in every facet of our lives, finally going out on Dad's arm to events that she organised. At, at Tom's nod, she continued. All the while, she did very little in the house, the hard tasks she was employed to see to. I was still quite young, a new teenager. Irma acted caring towards me, but only in front of my father. When he was around, she was mean about everything. I disliked her from the first meeting, and she felt the same way about me, I'm sure. All these years, it's as though I've had her hand on my back, waiting for the right moment to give me a shove. Could you be mistaken, Tom asked. At her frown, he gave a shrug of surrender. Could you be reading more into her actions because you simply don't like her? Tom, she spat on my mother's photo in front of me, ensuring I was paying attention, taking delight in it. She left her spittle to run down my mother's face. This happened just a week or so ago. He couldn't hide his shock then. Bloody hell. Exactly, and she made it very clear to me she wants me gone from the house, not in any subtle way, Tom, but in clear, compelling English. My home, the only one I've ever known, the one she plans to take from me. And your father's alright with this. That's the thing. It's as though Dad's in another world. He's become forgetful. He's caring less. He's allowing me to take on more and more of the business while allowing Emma to negotiate its future without any say so from either of us. She's got him under some sort of spell. I work most days of the week in my father's funeral parlour while Irma does nothing. She gave up her clerical duties years ago. It was always a sham. She set her sights on my dad, and she got him to marry her. Now I could believe she wants us both out of the way. How so? Fleur gave a moo of bafflement. I don't know. If either of us were around, she could probably sell the business to the Coglins and live very comfortably on the proceeds. If I was still a thorn in her side, but married to Jimmy, they could gang up on me. Either way, she needs my father out of the way, but I think she'll love it if we were both gone. You say your father hasn't seen the doctor. Well, that's according to him. Irma intimates otherwise. I'd believe Dad any day over her, even with his being so vague lately. Tom nodded thoughtfully. If Irma is really trying to unsettle you and put doubt in you, then perhaps this is her way of playing with your mind. What do you mean? Tom began to tell her about life in the shearing shed and how the gun shearer would create banter at Smoker, deliberately make the wool class. I feel he would never keep up. Why does he do that? He laughed. It's hard to explain. It's men living and working together. Ego, power, status. Men in competition with each other, with one another. You know, the ape beating his chest. Fleur nodded, smiling. Good image. So you think Irma's beating her chest? She could be. She wants to be number one gun in the house and needs you to know that. You are two women under one roof, and it sounds like you're competing for one man's attention. One's wife, one's a daughter. We could have been friends. Instead, we're enemies. My mother always says it takes two hands to clap. Sounds like you dislike Irma as much as she does you. She nods She nodded readily, and that gesture brought relief to Tom, that she seemed unoffended by his remark. I do, but she had the chance when I was young to play it all so differently. She was the adult. She could have helped me grieve and come to terms with the new situation. Instead, she chose to belittle me, to ridicule me, and pitch me against her for my father's affection. She did all of this behind his back until I became an adult. I felt defenseless. Now I'm pushing back. He nodded. If you can keep a clear mind like that, you'll find it easier to be around Irma. Let her behave however childish she chooses. You take the high road while you're conscious with, and keep your conscience clear. Fleur blinked away from him to look around the beach where the moonlight picked up the horizon. She looked back at him, the same light casting her serious expression into one that was ghostly grave. He loved how she leaned into him at the moment. I've never had a real friend. As of this evening, you are the closest I have to one, so you're now officially my best friend. This time Tom initiated the kiss. He put his arm around her, careful not to presume too much, and leaned in. As he hesitated for a second, she reached up to touch his face, and it was the permission he sought. He let his lips find her, soft, not insistent. They parted but never leaned back. He could smell her perfume, not at all floral as her name might suggest. Instead, it enveloped him in a citrus and spice vapor that was intoxicating. Tom was sure he would hold that fragrance in his mind from now on, yearning for it to lift from his skin in warmth and affection. He dared another kiss, and she returned it. It was longer this time, deeper. They stared at each other in the lamplight coming from above. Best night ever, he said, grinning. Fleur nodded. Started badly, ended brilliantly. Come on, I promised to walk you home. Reluctantly they stood, but they now held hands, confident in each other's affection. Perhaps you should ask your father to be honest about his health. Maybe he's deliberately not telling you everything to protect your feelings. That certainly sounds reasonable, Tom, and perhaps in an ideal world it's wise, but I don't really know my father anymore. His moods are unreliable and doesn't like me asking too many personal questions. He quickly gets cross with me if I criticize Irma. So you can't see the same failings that you do. I've always thought I saw her more clearly, but you've made me think it tonight. I do look for her flaws, so it is easy to find fault. However, I have a strong impression that Dad has regrets regarding Irma, but he's too proud, perhaps too far down the road of this marriage to admit as much to me. I think he feels he failed me, failed my mother, but he hasn't. He married Irma for the right and caring reasons, but she was the wrong choice. I know it's unlikely, but perhaps he could divorce her, Tom offered, his tone reasonable, deliberately not leaning one way or another. He would never want to humiliate her in such a way. What are you going to do? I'm going to make my own way. I have to. She nodded once firmly. He grinned. Did you become that amazing mortician you promised you would be? You would? Did you become that amazing mortician you promised you would? She laughed. You remember. I remember everything about that evening. I can tell you how you were dressed. Well, I have become a professional mortician, the only woman in the state. That's brilliant, Fleur. I'm proud of you. She smiled with pleasure. You may be surprised to know how much your pride means to me. Most men consider it an imposition. Here we can talk on a bit further here. And then cut up left in line with St. Vincent Street. She pointed. Not me. He returned to what she said. I was raised by a brilliant woman. She was educated, wealthy, full of spirit. As young as I was when we met, I remember wondering how a woman from that wealthy family ended up on a sheep station. You nodded, embarrassed. You told me your secrets first. I'm going to tell you mine. He was glad that she didn't pounce on the idea of hearing a secret, waiting through his lengthy pause while he arranged how to say it out. I was in hospital recently, nothing serious, he said before she could inquire, and in that bed next to me, an old fellow who knew my father, probably knew him before I was born, and Tom trailed off, giving a sigh. Go on, Tom, you're safe with me. I know, it's just hard. She waited again for him to continue. He told me that my mother was already pregnant when my father married her. Is that it, Tom? You don't have to. No, you don't understand. She loves someone else, but her family refused to let her be with him. As I understand, she defied them and kept seeing him, and then realized she was going to have a baby. I don't know what happened in between that time, but she met my dad at the Royal Show. He fell in love. Not hard to do with my mum, and the family didn't mind her falling for a drover. So it sounded incredulous. I'm sure they did, but by then they were probably tired of her rebelliousness. And while I think she did enjoy him, perhaps even learn how to be in love with him, I can now see there was a defiance in her marriage to him, not to mention a practical side, with me coming along. If we walk up here, we'll come into the main street, she said softly, clearly not wanting to interrupt him. He nodded as they passed a couple of pubs, one on either side of the street. Ahead they could see the lights of what he presumed to be a theatre. It was still relatively early, so the patrons would still be inside enjoying the film, but the traffic was thickening now that they'd come off the Esplanade and were heading back towards Black Diamond Corner. Go on, she urged gently. We seem to have similar situations. He shrugged. I won't say she regretted it entirely because she was very fond of my father. That's how he felt anyway when they were together, but now I feel sad, responsible even that she couldn't have all that she wanted in life. There was so much more to her than being known as Vern Catchlov's wife or Tom Catchlov's mum. Neither of us were particularly special, but she was. She could have been with a man she really loved and not us. Don't put yourself down. I think you're one out of the box, Tom, and she chose to remain in that life because she loved you. I think she could have been anything she wanted to be, but the only avenue to escape her awful family was marriage and motherhood. No, listen to me. The fact that they wanted her body back here means they felt she was always theirs. Your mother made her choices. We all do. My father has too. Your mother's desire to thumb her nose at her domineering father led to Vern. She chose to marry him and chose to raise you as his son. Don't ever forget that you are the product of her true love. So you were her most precious person. Tom gave a sad smile. They both chose to keep it a secret, though. Finding out the way I did was like the final blow. And another reason I'm here no longer in Farina. After she died, my father changed towards me. What do you mean? We became like strangers living together. Oh, Tom, it's all right, she assured her, shaking his head. I've been making my peace with it. Being away from all those things familiar helps. But it's the truth that after her death, he no longer treated me the same way. I couldn't work it out, you know. He'd leave me, young as I was, for long periods of time, and I knocked about with the shearing shed gang, the rouseabouts especially. I was raised by others from age 10 until my 15th birthday when they all considered me old enough to fend for myself. I'm so sorry, Tom. She let go of his hand and put hers on his arm instead, pausing for a moment in sympathy. Don't be, he said. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't family. He placed his hands on hers. Don't you make that same mistake as my mother, Fleur. You are smarter at 8 than any older I've met. Than any other I've met. I hope you fulfill all your ambitions. Fleur gave him a sidelong glance that was filled with pleasure. Remind me to tell you about my ambition. All right, but only if you promise to let me take you out properly, perhaps for the day. That's easy, I promise. When? Tomorrow. He looked hopeful. Sunday, she said, thinking not it, providing we have no call out in the morning. You can choose where we go. I have no idea where to take you. Oh, Tom, let's go to the zoo. I haven't been for years, and there's a new hippopotamus. He's called Newsboy and comes from Auckland Zoo. The zoo, he knew. He sounded excited. I often think I like animals better than people. Fleur, present company not included. He grinned. I've never been to a zoo. I couldn't think of anything more thrilling for a day out. Gosh, you're fun, Tom. Everything's a new experience. That's a date then. She gestured at a doorway. He recalled. You're here. I'm staying not too far up the road at the Everton Hotel. Yes, I know. I know it. Is it all right? He shrugged. It'll do for now till I find more permanent lodgings. You know, your mother is buried about 5 minutes from the pub. Really? That close? She nodded and smiled. Don't hesitate. I'm sure just being near her will help to settle some things in your mind. I will go on Monday. He grinned. Can't wait for tomorrow. Counting the hours, she shot back cheekily. I don't think I'll be able to sleep, he replied just as fast, causing her to throw back her head with delight. Feels good to feel good, she said. You do that to me. Kiss me tonight, Tom. He felt both impossible and beyond his childhood dreams to be kissing the girl he'd loved for 20 years. The childish crush had turned to a deep fondness almost instantly, and to imagine that the Fleur of his dreams had this very evening been in his arms beneath his lips made him believe it was this doorway and her embrace that he had travelled towards all his life. his mother's death, his father's rejection, the years of raising himself and carving out his path in the shearing shed, the trauma of Spara's death, the fever that took him to hospital, and the revelation that Fern was not his real father. Every one of those turning points had contributed to sending him to Adelaide, not just Adelaide, but down to the Portswood store and to Green to the dance that would have him cross the path of Fleur Appleby again. It was meant to be. Did he believe in destiny or was it fate? He wasn't sure. He just knew as he deepened the kiss that this was where he wanted to be forever and nothing else mattered anymore except loving Fleur. Thanks for listening.